In public hearings into the data services market inquiry, the Commission says it has reason to believe there are features in the market that may prevent or restrict competition. The Competition Commission says focus of the inquiry will include whether data prices are higher than they ought to be, the causes for the high costs, as well as remedies. Our reporter Glorious Sefako Musi spoke to Jason Aproskie. He's the head of the technical team for the data services market inquiry.
What led to the Competition Commission taking this decision to hold a market inquiry?
So, for a start, as you'll know, there's been a public outcry about data prices in South Africa, and what that eventuated in is the Minister and our department requesting us to initiate an inquiry into data costs in South Africa. And so that's where it's come from. So the Commission in late 2017 initiated this inquiry in terms of our legislation, and that's effectively where it began.
You say in your statement that the Commission has reason to believe that there could be factors that are either distorting competition in the market. Can you take us through those?
So, effectively that comes really from some of the public outcry. So it's two things really. One is public opinion and people's opinions on data prices and some of the voices that we're hearing in the market. And there's also been research, so some of the research done by bodies like Research ICT Africa, who presented today, as well as bodies like the World Bank and the International Telecommunications Union. They do a lot of research in terms of pricing and various other factors which show that South Africa is often ranked either very average or even badly in certain instances, depending on what they're measuring. So those are some of the things that have informed it at this point.
Okay. Does the Commission believe there could be some anti-competitive behavior amongst the players?
It's very difficult for us to say at the moment. We're very much in an evidence-gathering phase and analysing the evidence that we get. You know, if we find anti-competitive behaviour or we identify it, we'll investigate it and take it further. But there could be different causes. If prices are too high, it could be anti-competitive behaviour, but there could also be cost or regulatory issues which drive operators' costs or drive the kind of behaviour we see in the market, which is not necessarily anti-competitive, but there may be things that we can do or recommendations that we can make that can still address those issues.
Take us through who will be testifying here, giving evidence, the players that will be here. Take us through those.
Sure. So today, which is day one of the hearings, it's mainly consumer rights groups, so groups such as Amandla.mobi, the Right to Know campaign, DG Murray Trust, and then we've also had, who I mentioned before, a research group or a think tank in Cape Town called Research ICT Africa, who presented, and then the last presenter will be is the Association of Internet Service Providers. But mainly today the focus is really on consumer rights groups, NGOs, who are in contact with people who are struggling with data prices or are raising the concern. Day two, which is tomorrow and Thursday, that is only operators. So all the four major operators, Vodacom, MTN, Cell C, and Telkom are all presenting. And for tomorrow we have their CEOs coming in who are going to be doing presentations. And then the last day, it's a couple of internet service providers, as well as political parties, the Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services, and I think one or two other consumer rights groups that could only fit in on that day.
Okay. And what happens? What's the next step following this information gathering section that you said it is?
Yeah, so the next step is to build this into an interim report. So we take all the information we've gathered, the analysis that we've done, and we build that into an interim or a draft report that goes as far as we can go at that stage, but we put it out into the market, we get comments, we assess those comments, and then ultimately what that will do is form a basis for eventually having a final report which would contain various recommendations for either legislative recommendations or regulatory recommendations or anything else that might come along, but generally it's either legislation or regulation.
Switzerland's